Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Mental Conditioning Monday. I'm your host, Elliot Allen. How is everybody doing out there? It's another week down. We're already in the month of February. Wow. You know, time doesn't stop for any of us. It's constantly moving. We can look at that a number of ways. We can look at it in a good way. We can look at it in a bad way. But it's really how your mindset perceives it to be. Is really the perception of time. I like to think about time as being a very good thing. I like to think of time as being a friend to us all. But we have to really get ourselves in the mindset to really understand that in order to be able to really push forward and be able to utilize time in such a way that it's really becoming a tremendous friend to our lives. I don't know how the weather is out there for you guys, but time is tough because we had a bad snowstorm here in New York last week. We had another one coming into Sunday, so we're really getting hammered. Time is not doing us too great a job in terms of the weather, but at the same time, guess what? Time does actually, even in these particular situations, time actually does, I feel, once again, is a friend of ours. Because when it stops snowing, what do? You have a chance to go outside now and clean it up. You know, even though you may be a little bit tired, but time goes on. I don't care how long it snows. At some point, it is going to stop. And we have an opportunity to go outside and clean off our cars, clean off our driveways, clean off our roads, and get ourselves back on track to be able to move forward. So that's another example of how you look at it. How do you base your time as looking at it, whether it's a friend or a foe? So let's get into Mental Conditioning Monday's message for this week. This one is going to be quite interesting as we try to break this one down. A lot of things that I have seen during the course of this week. This message kind of was already in my head, and I saw some things that really kind of compound it this week. So the message is going to be: hindsight is 2020. Mindsight is. And I'm going to leave it right there. Say ... So hindsight is 2020. Mindsight is. So why did I leave that open? First of all, let's talk about hindsight. And what does that mean? That's a term that we always use in our lives. People say hindsight is 2020. So that's really the ability to be able to go back on certain situations and look at them and say, this is what you should have done. And that's hindsight. We say 2020. That's part of actually mental conditioning. That's part of growing our mindset, is to be able to analyze things that we've done in the past and be able to grow from that and not just ignore it, but to be able to look at it and say, okay, this is what's happened. This happened in the past. I want to examine my decision-making skills during that particular process. But we have to be careful not to criticize ourselves and get into that hindsight is 2020 and say, oh, I should have done this. I should have known to do that. No, that's not really a fair assessment to put ourselves in that situation when we're talking about hindsight. But it's really a fine line because, again, experience to me is one of the biggest friends of building mindset. Experiences that we go through, to embrace them, good and bad, to embrace those experiences that I had in the past, mentally allows me to get better going into the future. So now we're going to use another term, mindsight, not mindset, mindsight. What do we mean when we're talking about that? To me, mindsight is the ability to be able to be in the moment and to be able to make the right decisions in the moment, which is hard because you're dealing with life as such. That's why we talk about how important the decision-making process is in our lives. That's the most critical part of building mental conditioning, is to build mindsight. To be able to build your mindsight, your decision-making skills in the moment is always a critical thing. I told you as I started this message, I had this message on my mind all week, and then I saw a documentary the other day. Actually, I saw a movie last week called One Night in Miami, and it was a movie about some of my heroes, Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown, Malcolm X, and Sam Cooke. And it was a very interesting movie because it really was a movie that showed 4 different perspectives. And I thought that was mindsets, really, and mindsights. 4 different mindsights. And the one that kind of came out for me was Sam Cooke. Because Sam Cooke is probably somebody that out of the 4, I didn't know a whole lot about Sam Cooke. But as the movie developed and his mindsight really kind of grabbed me, and it really showed me like, wow, I got to take a little bit more of a look at him. And Sam Cooke was really ahead of his time, in that he was a musical artist, but he was ahead of his time because he was a black man who had a vision for himself for ownership. And at that particular time, just artists in general, I think, didn't really understand about ownership. You can have talent, tremendous amount of talent to sing, but he had tremendous amount of talent to sing. He had tremendous amount of talent to write and produce his own songs. And he also had the mindsight to say, you know what, I'm going to also own these songs. And that's, to me, is a very powerful thing, because in life, we all go through moments where you're going to do things that are new, unique, and unheard of. And that's the most difficult decision-making process for us all. When you're doing things that are new, unique, and unheard of, that's when you're talking about mindsight, because you got to be able to make decisions during that time when there is no previous experience, where there is no previous example for me to say, okay, I saw this before because I saw this person do it. I saw Sam do it before. I saw Ron do it before. I saw Joan do it before. There is no previous example. That's when you have mindsight, not hindsight. You have mindsight. And this is, believe it or not, certain things in our life is not always going to be very, very dramatic. But these are things that in life that we take for granted. Taking a job, that's mindsight, because maybe it's a job opportunity that's like, well, I don't really know anybody who went in this area of their career. I don't know nobody who went down that road. My first career was a computer engineer. I didn't know anybody necessarily who did that. But at the same time, you had to have mindsight to say, well, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to try it. Whether or not we're going to stop working on a job, whether it's time to retire or whether it's just, I don't particularly like this particular career. That's mindsight, to be able to make that decision. But it's really difficult to do. That's why I stopped short of when we use that topic today of hindsight is 2020, but mindsight is. That's strictly up to you and the work that you put in on your mindset to build your mental conditioning. You will have to finish that sentence and that phrase through your distinct ability. But it's really important to remember, at the end of the day, how your mindsight is later going to affect your hindsight. So you have to be as sharp as you can with your mindsight. You have to be as sharp as you can to be able to make those decisions. Where does that come from? That comes from your self-evaluations and being really strong in your evaluations of who you are and the direction that you want to take in your life. That gives you the ability to make sharp decisions where it's like, I don't really have a background to make this decision. Maybe it's time for you to say, again, I want to stop being in this particular situation, whether it's a relationship, whether it's just a lifestyle. We hear about this a lot of times where it's a generational thing. You've grown up a certain way. You've only seen a certain type of lifestyle, whatever it may be. Some of us come from broken homes where, I never really experienced having two parents in the home. My parents were divorced and my parents' parents were divorced. And you come from that. Now you have to be able to have a mindset to say, I'm not going to go down that road, but at the same time, I still want to be married. Now you have to have mindsight now to say, you know what? This is new, unique for me, unheard of for me, because I don't have that example. But does that mean that you cannot achieve that goal? No, but that takes mindsight, because you're going to have to be able to navigate through this thing and see things and do things that you've never seen done before. But that's where it takes mental preparation. The foundation comes from your mindset. A lot of times we talk a lot about foundation here in the mental conditioning movement. And a lot of foundation comes from previous experience. It comes from hindsight. Oh, I saw this happen before, so I learned a lot from it. So I was able to build the foundation from it. I saw my parents do this, so I was able to build the foundation from it. I saw a lot of my peers do this, so I was able to build the foundation from it. But sometimes you're the forerunner. Sometimes you're the front runner. That now you have to have the mindset to be able to make that decision and say, no, I'm going to change how this is. Or I'm going to go forward with this. This is not easy. It's a very difficult thing. But that's why we say
Mindsight is ... And I leave it up to you to be able to understand the importance of what that means to you. You have to understand when you get up every day and you have to go through your particular life, your particular routine, that's your mindsight. And it's very important for you to maximize the decision making so you can get through the day maximizing who you are. So sometimes that might mean, like I said, you have to stop a certain situation. Maybe you're in a relationship that's like, I got to have the mindset right here to understand that this relationship is no longer a relationship that's conducive to me getting up and maximizing who I am, maximizing my mental ability. Maybe you're on a job where you say, you know what, that's enough. It's time for me to stop coming to this job every day because I'm no longer able to maximize who I am. I'm no longer able to maximize my ability to go there and be productive on that particular job. And I see something else for me. That's the mindset that we have to really strive for, because what happens is that it's going to manifest itself at some point to where physically you get forced to stop doing whatever it is that you're doing. You physically like, I just physically can't do it anymore. And that wasn't even necessarily a decision that I made in my mind. Physically, I can no longer do it. Put you in a certain position. Now is when the hindsight comes in. Because hindsight, you look back now and say, you know what? I should have got out of that situation 2 years ago. Now I'm in a certain position to where I don't have as many options now. That's the hindsight, and that's 2020, because you have the ability now to know what happened. But to really maximize our lives, to really maximize our life's destinations, we must work on our mindset. This is a very difficult thing to do because there's a tremendous amount of emotions involved in that. And it's also, yes, a tremendous amount of fear there because we're doing something unique, unheard of, unseen. This is a difficult thing. Anytime you travel up a road that's never been traveled before, there's a certain amount of fear there. But I challenge everybody to really, 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 really build that skill mentally to be able to gain the confidence in your decision-making process. But you have to first know who you are with your self-evaluation, and that'll put you in a position to not have to always say, well, hindsight. No, I'm dealing with mindsight. So that was something that was really powerful to me. If you get a chance, check out, some documentaries on the brother Sam Cooke. He's a very powerful young man who was killed, at a very early age. This is Black History Month, so that was a little bit of a history lesson. For me, I learned a lot about him. A young guy who had tremendous mindsight to do things that was new, unheard of, and a visionary at that particular time. So everybody have a great week. That's Mental Conditioning Monday's message for this week. I'll see you guys right here again next week. Hopefully the weather dies down a little bit for us. It'll be a little bit more dry outside, but I'm dealing with it as such. Everybody have a great week. I'll see you here again. Mental Conditioning Monday. I'm Elliot Allen.